may the best team win, and so we're not talking about decisions by the referee. But one thing, there won't be no VAR.
Exactly. And that actually nicely brings me on to my next point, because I think it would be rude not to speak about VAR when you're on here. And there's a couple of topics actually I wanted to cover. So there's some statistics I've had a little look at as well. And these are actually on the ESPN website. And it's showing, the amount of decisions that have been overturned. Now, one of those is penalties awarded. It says 26. 8 of those were missed by the referees, which over the course of a season, you know, is very, very small. It's
Well,
very low.
listen, that's their stats. That's the PGML stats, isn't it? So,
Yeah.
yeah, listen, I beg to differ at that. There's been a lot more that have been missed and where VAR have not got involved. So, listen, I have to say, I think talking about VAR, I think we have a massive problem with VAR at the moment. It's so inconsistent. When they get involved and when they don't get involved, and for me, that's the big problem. They don't know when to get involved and they don't know when not to get involved. And that comes down to the training and education. If we look at the same with challenges, serious foul play challenges, it's all over the place. Handball is a mess. It's a mess. It shouldn't be, because the law is simple. Was it a deliberate act? Was it a deliberate act? Was the defender's arm in a natural or unnatural position? Did he deliberately make himself bigger? Now, I honestly believe that the guys don't know what natural and what unnatural is in certain phases of play. That's a problem we've got. It's not the law. For me, it's not the law. It's understanding the law. It's understanding phases of play where your arms are in a natural position or where they're not in a natural position. And it comes down to the leadership and direction from the PGR management, the guys that are coaching the referees. And I'm sorry, I think at the moment, fans are just as important as anybody else in football. And I think everybody is confused. We're seeing a record number of yellow cards issued. And I think that's because players are not losing respect for the referee, but they're not. It comes with axing in your decision making. And I think they're not happy with VAR. They're not happy with certain things that go on the field of play. And I think it's a must that referees must engage with the players. You've got to engage with the players. You've got to have that chat. You can't come across as though you're arrogant and you show that arrogance. We've got to show empathy for the game. And at the moment, I just don't think we're showing. Yes, we have got some natural referees. We've got some great, excellent referees, but I think it's the training, education, the leadership, and direction. I mean, if we had 22 Michael Olivers, we wouldn't be complaining, would we? Because I think obviously Michael is by far our best referee. Yeah. And listen, but we all make mistakes. Michael makes mistakes, but he doesn't make as many as the others and as the other referees. And if you look since the season started, week after week after week after week after week, we're seeing controversy. Mm-hmm. And that's down to the implementation of VAR, not knowing when to get involved and when not to get involved, and their application of deliberate handball.
See, the other thing as well with VAR for me is, and last time I was on here, Mark, I was moaning about decisions that went against Bournemouth. I'm going to play devil's advocate here and mention.
If anyone's got a complaint, it's Gary O'Neill, isn't it? For Wolves.
Well, exactly. Exactly.
I think the penalty you got to get was it Luton. It was Luton, was it? They got that handball. Was it Luton when? It was against Luton, not you. Yeah. When they come and drew at your place 1-0. Was it when you got they were? I think the handball was at Luton, wasn't it? When they played Luton, that handball they got Luton for an equaliser.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I thought it was against you. Yeah, it's not. No. Go on, so you were saying.
So, I was looking at, two situations. The first one was Burnley. And of course, we was 2-1 up, and Jay Rodriguez scores that goal. Now, firstly, that was a decision which, could have cost Andoni Iraola his job, which, thank God it didn't, because he's gone on a fantastic run.
It's done well.
But they took 7 minutes over that decision, and surely
7 minutes.
7 minutes,
That's
7 minutes.
that's another problem. See, I really, since VAR's come into fruition, I think it's not been changed. So I think that the IFAB protocol on VAR needs a total revamp. Total revamp. It's got to be, in the Premier League, we've got to bring in automated offsides. Got to. I know the clubs voted against it, but that will speed the game up as well. And I think when we're looking at decisions, or you're looking at incidents, or you're looking at offside, listen, automated offsides, that clear up everything straight away. Subjective decisions, if you're taking more than one or two looks at it, then it's not a penalty, because we're at the moment we're being too forensic. We are too forensic. And if you're looking at an incident 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times, then how's that a clear and obvious error? It can't be. So if you're looking at it that long, you'll find whatever you want to find in that incident. Mm-hmm. And the other thing that listening to Howard Webb on Mic'd Up on these shows, he's got a very, very tough job of being control of the referees. But it feels to me that the VAR is leading the referee. So he's already telling the referee that what he thinks and what's happened. So that's in his mind straight away. When referees go to that monitor, they've got to be mentally tough, mentally strong. So if they don't agree with that decision, stick with your original decision.
Yeah.
Stick with it. Right or wrong, you'll get far more respect from everybody in football if you stuck with your original decision, because you can hear them. The VAR in his ear is when we hear the chat going on. VAR is leading the referee, so he's already made his mind up before he's got to the screen. So effectively, the VAR is re-refereeing that game. We need to hear the conversations in full between VAR and referee. As I said, the fans are just as important. So we need to hear, if the broadcasters can hear it or hear the conversation between VAR and the referee, but they don't hear the referee to VAR, then the fans should be hearing that.
Yeah.
So as I say, they're just as important as anybody else. So in the stadium, they see VAR check going on, they should be able to hear what's going on. Yeah. And obviously, that can't happen unless the IFAB agree it. So
I completely agree, and it happens in rugby, where people can actually hear what is going on. So it would make sense in football if there's a big decision. But the other one, which is a bit of a strange one, is in our game against Nottingham Forest. Of course, Nottingham Forest were reduced down to 10 men after Bowley was sent off. Now, personally, if this was a Bournemouth player who was sent off for this, I'd be fuming. But because it was a second yellow card, VAR couldn't intervene. Whereas if it was a straight red, that without doubt would have been chalked off.
I think on those, that's why I said VAR needs a total revamp.
Yeah,
it needs a revamp. We need to look at listen. They can look at yellow cards if it's mistaken identity.
Yeah.
But they can't look at yellow cards and cautionable offences because of the protocol. But I think on that situation, when it's a second yellow card leading to a red card, then I think they should be able to look at it. And as we said, it was your player. Was it Smith? Was it who was the player?
It was Smith who was tackled by Bowley.
But Bowley won the ball. Around. It was when I got the message from, obviously, because I work on BN Sports, which is a football channel with Richard Keys and Andy Gray, and they sent me the clip because I was watching the game they were showing. They sent me the clip, and I thought it was Smith that was being sent off.
Yeah.
When I saw the clip, because he trod on him accidentally. I mean, it wasn't. You could argue it was a yellow card to Smith, not to Bolly. And so when they told me it was Bolly sent off, I think that it was a clear error, because it was a great challenge, and it was Smith that came in late and trod on Bolly. But listen, it happened so quickly. But Rob Jones, the referee, was in a great position, and referees at that level should be recognised in those challenges. But going back to VAR, yes, on those situations, when it leads to a red card, VAR should be able to look at that second yellow card. Yeah. And with that situation, if it was in the protocol, they would have definitely recommended a review, and that would have been, and he would have looked at it and he would have said, "Oh no, I've made an error there," and he would have wiped out the second yellow card. But obviously you can't, and then Bolly ended up missing that game. But going on from that, the FA there should be a ruling, where in other leagues in Spain in the Liga you can appeal yellow cards, but in England you cannot appeal yellow cards. Now that's a prime example where the FA just second yellow card, they just write that's it, it's banned. But with the disciplinary department, they should be looking at that. The club should be on at the FA to put it into their rules to say, listen, we should be able to appeal yellow cards if it's a wrongful yellow card. If it's wrongful, like that one was, and to say until the FA change their rules on that, you cannot appeal on yellow cards, but you should be able to, especially in situations like that. The FA should look at that. The FA should look at that and say, sorry, Rob Jones has made a clear and obvious error there. That was never a second yellow card, and say, right, no suspension. No suspension, because he missed most of that game. He missed most of that game because he was sent off for a second yellow card.
Exactly. And I think that really, and again, playing devil's advocate, I was quite happy that we got the win. At the same time, it's not fair on Nottingham Forest, really, that they had to play that length of time with only 10 men through something that
through an error. Through an error by the referee. His interpretation of that challenge wasn't correct.
The whole rules really do need a bit of a change, really, don't they?
Well, the rules, obviously, you've got the laws of the game and the FA rules. So that would be the FA rules need to look at that and change that you should be able to challenge a yellow card if it's a wrongful dismissal, which this was clearly a wrongful dismissal for a second yellow card.
Well, there has been quite a lot as well being made about two referees who have joined the Premier League. And to be honest, I don't really like how much has been made about this, because we've got our first female referee in Rebecca Welsh.
And by the way, she's refereeing our game on Saturday.
Is she?
Excellent.
Do you know what? I never even checked that.
Yeah,
I never even checked that.
She's the referee for Saturday's game.
Good stuff. Good stuff. And then we've also got, for the first time in 15 years, our first black referee in Sam Allison. I don't like, the way they've painted this, because at the end of the day, those referees have got to that position in the Premier League by being good at what they've done.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a long way. It's a long path to get there. And listen, I'm with you. You're correct what you're saying. They're referees, whether whatever they are. They're referees, and obviously they've come through the elite refereeing program. So I'm sure there's other referees out there as well that deserve a chance. So they do it. They give chances to, because it does need refreshing. We do need to get referees through quicker, good natural ability referees through quicker, and obviously they've come through. They've done well. They deserve their chance. And let's see how they do this weekend. Let's see how Rebecca does at QPR.
Yep, definitely.
Because that is a massive step up, as you know. It's a massive step from refereeing in the Football League and jumping into the Premier League. There's no hiding place in the Premier League, as we've seen recently, as recently as last night at Anfield and Newcastle.
One thing I'd like to throw in your direction, though, because of course with VAR and decisions being overturned, referees seem a little bit more nervous to make decisions. Of course, there is those errors and they get pinpointed out, and there is no hiding spot. But there is also that reliance on VAR. Every decision is under the spotlight now.
Yeah.
In your day, Mark, you had referees like yourself, Graham Paul Durkin, Mariah Rennie.
All excellent referees. All excellent referees. Yeah, we didn't get the errors that we're getting now. I think the problem we've got is that the referees now are not making a decision. I think they are relying too much on VAR. I think they've got to forget about VAR, forget it's there, just go out and referee what's in front of you and make the decision. If it's a clear and obvious error, then VAR will then get involved. And we've seen that. We've seen that last night. There's a lot of arguments, with Jota, the way he's gone down. But when you look at it, there was contact. There was contact from the Newcastle goalkeeper, although it minimal, not enough to make him go down. So Andy Taylor's made his decisions. Give the penalty, rightly or wrongly. That's what you want to see. That's what you want to see. VAR won't get involved, and that's where we need to look at the protocol again. VAR won't get involved because there was that initial contact. As I said, albeit minimal and not enough to make Jota go down in the manner that he did, VAR will not get involved in that.
But because, when VAR wasn't around, you had to make those final calls. You would get them either, 90%, 99% of the time, Mark, you'd get them right.
Yeah,
there would be
absolutely.
the odd
Absolutely.
1%. But you was able to manage it, with the rule book in mind, rather than having to rely on a bit of technology. And I think even, from what I've seen of Championship football, some of the Championship referees are better than those in the Premier League at the moment.
Yeah, listen. I wouldn't disagree with you, because they're allowed to go out and referee. They ain't got. They make the decisions there and then. So they either give it or they don't, and that's what you want. When we're looking at big decisions or we're looking at penalties, when I was refereeing, it comes to you straight away. You looked at it and you thought you replayed it back in your mind. Yes, that's a penalty, and normally you'd say bang, penalty, or you go, well, that's violent conduct or serious foul play. At the moment, you do seem to get that little bit of indecision. And I think that's. I mean, listen. When I referee, there's a couple of times I'd love to have had VAR to get me out of the mire. But listen, it is what it is, and I think if you look in the Champions League, it works very well because they have the semi-automated offsides, and they don't really get involved on minimal contact, things like that. So I still think there's a lot of work to be done within the Premier League and with VAR. It comes from the leadership and direction of the PGL management. There's still a lot more work to do to iron out these inconsistencies we're seeing week in, week out. 1 week we'll see a holding offence given, and then the following week we'll see another holding offence that was worse than the one the week before not given. And that's the problem we have. That's where we get all the fans, the fury from all the fans, and the even the managers now are coming out saying, well, we don't know, you don't know from 1 week to another what you're going to get. You just don't know. When do you ever hear Roy Hodgson, who's been in football at the top level for many years, when do you hear Roy Hodgson ever come out and complain about a referee's performance? I've never in my time, I've refereed Roy's teams many times. I've worked with Roy over in Doha with BN Sport, lovely man, and now Roy's coming out. Even he was an advocate of VAR, but he's not now.
Back in your day, you was able to make that decision, and without that thought in your head, is this right? Is this wrong? That self-doubt.
I used to think about it for a couple of minutes. Hope I've got this right, and then obviously you'd soon know at half time or full time if you got it right or wrong. You had the old manager banging on the door. I remember giving a penalty at Man City Villa one afternoon, and it was Martin O'Neill was in charge, and his sidekick was John Robinson, and Villa were winning 1-0. Just before half time, I gave a penalty to City because the keeper come out and clattered a City player. And walking down the tunnel, I knew something. I knew they were waiting for me because they hide right down the bottom of the tunnel so they don't see you. And they give me a right volley of abuse, a massive volley of abuse. And I just told them where to go, as you do. Can't say it on this show. And got into my dressing room. And about 2 minutes later, there was a knock on my door. John Robinson came in and said, "John, I don't want you coming in." "No, Mark, no, I just want to come in and apologise. We've seen it. It's a clear penalty. So apologies from myself and Martin." And so I went, thanks very much, mate. No problem at all. Well done. Thanks for coming in. But they know straight away. Do you know what I mean? That's, and you know at full time or half time and full time if you've made that error, or if you're going back out. I remember giving a penalty. It was Man United Everton at Old Trafford, and it was Phil Neville. He was playing for Everton.
Yes,
obviously he'd gone, and I'd awarded a penalty to Man United in the first half, and he had a right go at me. I said, Phil, listen, I can only give it as I see it, and for me that was a penalty. Coming out for the second half in the tunnel, he's come up to me, Mark. We've seen it. It was a penalty. My apologies. So listen, it is what it is.